go.
Hi, my name's Ronnie Reffin. I'm an amateur photographer. My special interests are landscape, surreal type stuff, but specifically music photography, which was really my first love. And I like to photograph local bands and local venues as opposed to arena bands.
Thanks Ronnie. Welcome to this interview series of Music Behind the Lens. Thank you for taking part of it. I know it's quite nerve-wracking for you to be on the other side of the camera, as we've discussed. Obviously I get to be still on the other side of the camera, but don't worry, I'll be getting my interview shortly soon. Obviously you briefly mentioned that your interest in music photography. However, you don't do it actively quite a lot. You do other aspects of photography, and the main thing in here is you are a photographer and you enjoy photography.
Yes. So
we're going to get you to just start from the beginning, how it all started for you.
It probably started the same way as every other photographer. You know, you're a teenager, you've got cameras, you take snapshots, you know, sort of just to try and, you know, capture your memories, the usual roll of film, maybe take 20, 30 photographs. I have one half decent one in there. Moving on to the sort of cartridge ones, which made it a lot easier. But I think for me, it was probably about 2007, I started putting my photographs on Flickr. Initially just to keep them safe and so I could download them whenever I wanted. Mm-hmm. And then about a year after I started using Flickr, I got this message from somebody saying, why is this photograph not got more comments? I think it was a photograph of somewhere in New York. I think it was the Empire State Building. I said, why has this not got more comments? Put it in this group, get some feedback on it, excuse me. And I did, got lots of good feedback. And shortly after that, I got invited to add some photographs to Getty Images. And in fact, that photograph was one of the first ones that kind of sold, which was nice. So that kind of got me into taking my photography more serious, you know, more seriously. I realised that other people maybe might like to see the shots that I took. Mm-hmm. So I started doing that for a bit, put some more photographs into Getty, occasionally made a sale, maybe once every couple of months there was a sale. But then in parallel to that, around about 2010, I was going through a bit of a bad time in work and my personal life, and I started spending a little bit too much time in Pivo, you know, just to read my book, unwind before going home. And all of a sudden bands started coming on, and you know, I started listening to them, and then, you know, really it started to become a thing. I started to go to the pub to listen to the bands rather than to just read my book and have a pint. And then I saw some photographers running about, Doug Hepburn being I think the first one that I saw.
I know Doug,
and he was taking photographs, and so I started bringing my wee Olympus FE100, which is my wee point and shoot. So I started bringing that and taking some pretty average type of shots. But it just kind of, it allowed you to relive the gig after you were finished. You know, you had a good gig, you went home, next day you loaded the photographs up onto the computer, and you know, you started to get better, the images started to become clearer, which gave you better memories of the band, and it was a way of reliving the gigs. And then again, round about shortly after I did that, maybe 6 months, I got a really positive reaction from one of the guitarists in a band called Splinter Tailo. And you know, that sort of taught me that actual bands themselves may actually be interested in the shots I took. So it was that's how I kind of get into it.
Right. Obviously, we'll be talking about 5 images that I've got you to select. In that amount of 5 images, it's pretty difficult to choose.
Yes.
I can understand that. And it's a mixture of what you're just talking about, music, sorry about my phone going off, a mixture of music and other photography-based photography that you've mentioned there. So we'll talk about that later. You talked briefly about the little Olympus that you used. Can you tell me kind of the gear that you've used in the past and what you use now?
Yeah, the Olympus FE. It was for a point and shoot. It was pretty good. It had a really good lens. The photographs were really clear. Round about the time I started taking photographs that people were buying and people were interested in, I thought that the natural step was maybe to go to a digital SLR camera, but they were a lot of money in those days, so I went to a Bridge originally. I think it was a Fujifilm 2000 HD. I made a deal with myself. If I was still using it in a year, if I was still taking photographs in a year, then I would splash out the money and get a DSLR. And
DSLR. Yeah. Some people get confused.
Yeah.
The DSLR is obviously digital, and SLR is the film one.
So yeah, after a year, I was still taking photographs. So I got myself a Nikon D3100.
Good choice.
Yeah, so it was my starter DSLR.
Any reason why you picked Nikon?
I did a lot of research, and I think the feeling was that the lenses were slightly better and slightly cheaper as well.
It's just interesting. I mean, for me, Nikon's just been the chosen one for me as well because they felt good in the hand and it was low light. Canon have got a milkiness or a whiteness to their images, and it's a beautiful camera as well. But I've just not, and I'm not going to. I'm very careful because I did this with Karen, and obviously Alistair's interviews. They're Canon shooters. And I keep feeling as if I'm swearing, you know what I mean? And they are great cameras, but I mean, I wouldn't say no to one.
No, definitely not. And I've heard a lot of people say a lot of good things, but I've never actually used a Canon. I'll hold my hand up and say I've never actually used
I've held them briefly, and I've handed them back straight away. Sorry for
No, not at all.
Carry on.
And yeah, I had that D3100 for quite a while actually, but obviously it's a crop sensor, so it was. The nature of local bands and local venues, gig photography is it's all very low light stuff, and so the D3100 did struggle a little bit with noise, noisy pictures, high ISO. So at that point then I bought myself a D700 second hand, which was I felt a massive step up in what I was able to do. The ISOs were higher, so I was able to get better shots in lower light. It was kind of academic because the D3100 ended up getting ruined anyway. I was mountain biking, taking some photographs up in the hills and come off my bike and damaged my elbow, my shoulder, my wrist and my camera. So the D700 became my single camera for a while. And I'm now shooting with a Nikon D750.
Good camera,
so mate. Yeah, love that camera. Really love that.
A lot of good reviews, and certainly for what we do in music as music photographers, it's certainly that any feedback that I know, and obviously I've been interviewing Bazza Mills. He's got one, and I was tempted to get one myself, but through the community of music photographers that I know, it's all good reviews, and I've never actually used one, but. I've stuck with the D800 and the D3S, but...
I was really looking at the D800 as well.
Yeah, the good thing with the D800 that I find is it's a high pixel rate, and if you're shooting from a distance from a small lens, you're pretty much sure you can crop it.
Yeah, you still have a half decent shot.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm interrupting you again.
No, not at all. So if I'm shooting bands, I tend to... The D700 also get damaged, so that it was difficult for it to change the aperture in some lenses. So it only really works with my 50mm 1.8 prime. So I tend to just have my D700 with a 50mm on it all the time, and then my 750 I just use a Nikon 14-24 on that to give me my wide angle shots. So that way I don't have to change lenses, because again in a small venue, you don't want to be leaving your gear lying about.
And if it's working for you and you're getting everything that you want from a shot, or from that gear you're getting, that's ideal.
Yeah.
Because we're all, as photographers, we're a bit like geeks. We love equipment, we like to upgrade, we like the best of the best, but at the end of the day, my understanding is it's the person behind the camera, it's not the gear.
Yeah.
So it's how you adapt and use that gear.
And I think the two lenses give you totally different feels of photographs.
Yeah, yeah.
They allow you to take completely different styles in one sort of session.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah, the 50mm I just love for the close-ups at the mic. Those sorts of shots. 14 to 24 is great for the sort of wide angle, getting the crowds in, getting the whole band type shots.
Yep. So, whereabouts are you based? Where do you mainly do your photographs?
Glasgow, yeah, usually Glasgow city centre. So it's usually sort of Glasgow venues.
And do you have any particular genre of music that you cover? Bands you want to name drop a few?
I love bands that are active in the stage. There's a lot going on. Good strong front men, front women. If they have like a gimmick, it is also good from the photography point of view. So again, it tends to be bands that I know that I tend to shoot that fit into those categories. Like, it's obviously my son's band, Megalomatic, but bands like Seraph Sin, Splintered Halo, FYM, Mantis Toboggan, Twin Heart, bands like that, that have a lot of character, a lot of things going on. You could shoot them for 40 minutes, an hour, rattle off hundreds of shots, and you'd still be spoiled for choice about the ones that the 15 or the 20 that you pick.
Well, that's the thing that I was talking about with Stuart Westwood's interview, that I touched on. When you photograph bands, some bands or musicians will stand static, and it may be nerves, might be just the way they are, but you get some people who are very active on stage. And they're the ones that you get excited about, and then you get that one shot. You can batter away, photograph all night, and then it just takes that one shot. Yeah.
I mean, if they're static, as long as they're even emotive at the mic, you can still get a decent shot if you've got the sheer passion going into that one note that they're going for. But I think if they're moving and they're doing things and pulling shapes, that makes for great photographs as well.
Definitely.
I mean, this is a quick tangent. I mean, one of the things I love about the local band scene is you go along to photograph one band, but because you're not limited, you can stay for all the sets.
Yeah.
It's quite often it leads on to another band. I mean, I had a whole chain of bands. I started off photographing a band called Black Tara, and then they were supporting a band. Then a couple of gigs later, they were supporting Splintered Halo. Right. So I've started following them as well, and then they were then at one point supported by Seraph Sin. So you can get all. It's just how you discover new bands. You go along for one band, and then.
And obviously, all these bands that you mentioned and these images, they're on your Flickr account.
Yeah, yes.
At the moment that Flickr's changing, and they're trying to get you to delete a lot. Obviously, I'll show them on and I'll let people.
A lot of them are on my Facebook. They're generally on albums.
I'll put them on the screen and let people see them as we're talking about them. So, do you have any kind of strategy when you attend this, or is it just a matter of just getting in there, taking a step back and watching it, in regards settings for a camera or anything like that?
I tend to use back button focus a lot, so that allows me to keep my finger on the main shutter button, just registering the exposure without actually refocusing. I tend to know the venues reasonably well, so usually you're sitting about ISO 3200, ISO 4000, something like that. Completely, spot metering always, manual exposure always.
Because we always have it when it's all backlight. I had that last night. I was photographing the professionals last night, and as I got in there reasonably on time, but they were on early set, and it's in the garage, and the lights are usually that well done, but I never really have a strategy myself, and I had a plan. So basically my plan was to get in there, get my cameras ready, and as soon as I got there, there's an image that I'll show in my interview tomorrow. It's a Japanese bass player they've got now, and he's basically staring at me, and he's pitch black, as I took the shot, and I knew it when I looked at it and I went, oh, it's just all backlit. Because where I was standing, it was just dark. And you get that when you go in. As soon as you walk in, you just think, right, what's the lights like?
This is going to be
the first thing I think about. It's the light. It's all about the light.
The light basically can make or break your shoot. I mean,
Definitely.
if it's a small venues, tend to have limited number of spots, especially if they're behind. So, I mean, one strategy I quite like, especially if I'm on the 50mm lens, is just to try and squat down, try and get the spot right behind the head.
Yeah.
So effectively, it gives you your rim lighting. So you can turn the ISO up, and so you can get the face, but you've got the rim lighting because of the spot immediately behind them. But it's more difficult if you get multiple spots.
I think I touched that in Alistair's interview as well. There was a particular image he got. He's a great use of flash, as you are as well. We'll talk about that shortly. He bounced a photograph of a shadow, and just that's the whole point of music photography for me. I'm also a press shooter, and I shoot for the press when I can. And a lot of them, it's editorial images that they're using, it's bog standard images, and sometimes they will want a really good one, certainly if it's for a magazine. But I do find to be creative and to have that certain picture, I don't know what it would be used for, to be fair, a big photograph on a wall, but you just try to be that little bit creative.
It's difficult as well. I mean, my most favourite photographs that I've ever taken haven't even been accepted by Getty. They're just not interested in those sorts of photographs.
Yeah, because I supply to Getty, Alamy, Shutterstock. I think I supply to them all. Mainly Alamy now. Getty, I've kind of stepped back a little bit because they seem to a little bit more stringent in their rules. So
they can be really, and they're getting more stringent as time goes on. I mean, I can't even take shots now with recognisable bits of car, you know.
But is there any specific reason now that you enjoy? I know you do other still photography, but what is it that really draws you to music photography?
Loads. I mean, the music itself. I mean, I've been involved in music really since about 5, because I used to be a brass player. So, and my dad was a brass player, so my dad's played in bands. I was brought up to play in bands and orchestras. Played back in trumpet for a couple of demos for a couple of local bands in the past. I just love music, you know, and so therefore, you know, when those live bands come on in Pivo, it just ignited it all, because I hadn't really touched music personally for 5 or 6 years. I stopped playing in bands, I stopped playing, and it just lit something in me again. You know, that the fact that I photograph bands now is just an extra dimension, to be honest. It's something to do while I'm there, while I'm listening to the bands. But you know, and then my son now is also, he's been in quite a few bands now. He's currently in Megalomatic, but before that it was Valid Sundays and Less Like You and a couple of bands before that. So and it's one big cycle, and you know, grandfather to father to son, you know. And it
was just a bit like when I interviewed Arthur, his son's also a musician, and it's the same that he became their kind of roadie. And again, that was another avenue for him, although he was a photographer for many years, and he was doing sports photography when News of the World and other press as well. He found as well the great joy of photographing that, and obviously having your son in a band, it makes it that little bit special. Obviously we're going to go into your 5 images, and that's where we're touching on all genres of music photography, as well other genres of photography. Do you want to talk about your first image?
This one here?
Yeah.
This is one of my conceptual ones. Sometimes with these sorts of shots, you get an idea, and literally it can sit in your brain for a year, and it can take you months to work out how you're going to do it. This photograph is called Death of Childhood Dreams. So,
I mean, it's got to me, that's got a music element, because it could be a lyric, or it could even be a music cover, because it's amazing now some of the the images that are used by bands nowadays.
Aye, I've had a few images that have either been used for album art, or there's a levitation photograph I have. I've had a couple of people express an interest in using it, but this particular one, the original idea was about that's meant to be the same person. Well, actually, it's the same person. It's me in both shots, but it's about the younger person having a dream. In this particular case, it's music, but it's about the younger person having a passion. You know, when they're free of responsibility and they want to grow up, and this is what they're going to be, no doubt in their mind. And the older person is basically reality taking hold when you've got mortgages and your bills to pay, and how, in effect, the adult somehow slays or kills the younger self. So that was kind of the idea behind that shot. And strangely enough, when I did show it to some musicians, they took a completely different meaning from it. They saw that as corporate music.
Right.
You know, corporate music, basically their attitude to musicians, you know. So it kind of
interesting. Interesting.
It was lucky that it kind of works two different ways.
It's funny how when people look at a picture and they've got this different idea about it, and my idea behind music behind the lens is chatting about the photographer behind that picture, and how technical it can be to create it, the reason, the concept, the idea, the creativity. And a musician will look at it and think that totally different. Yeah,
I love that. I love different interpretations. Yeah. That's why I like the conceptual stuff that I do. I like to hear what other people's opinions of them are. Yeah. Sometimes I won't even tell them. I mean, that was out for quite a while before I told anybody what my thoughts were behind it.
Technically, as we're both photographers, and we know that's a hard shot to take, simply because you've got the car lights there. Was that your main light?
No, I had there was a lot going on there. There were some flashes, some off-camera flashes. There were about another maybe 8 or 9 painting with light shots for the actual grounds and the landscape. There was a car, and then there was you can just kind of see there's a road round here. There's a little bit of the sunset, and there's also some car lights in the distance. So there's probably about 10 or 11 individual shots in there.
That's where the technical was, and that's where I've picked up on it, because I'm still learning the flash stuff. And I think that's where you've got a really good skill there.
Thank you. I think it'd be easier if I had a model, I suppose, but having to do both bits.
It's always difficult to get models and people willing to come along. And again, it's a technical, hard shot to take, and there's a lot of organisation in that, a lot of time to plan it as well. I
was also hoping nobody pulled into the car park while I was changing my clothes. Was also...
Well, yeah, I mean, considering what you're doing there and what the image is like in the day and age, and some people think, oh, right, if you came across someone, I can imagine what it would be like. Oh, I need to phone the police quickly.
I was doing another photograph in that car park, a completely different one a year later, and the police actually did turn up, so it was interesting.
Love it. Okay. That's great. I mean, is there anything else you'd like to chat about that shot?
No, I think that pretty much does it for that. I just love it when it inspires other people.
Like I say, from a technical aspect, and because we know that, but it's interesting how people are interpreting it and looking at it and saying, well, I see it that way, or whatever, and as I say, that for me could either be used in a book, or tell a story, or a music video, or anything like that. It could be a beginnings of it, and it's a perfect shot. I really like it.
Thank you.
It's beautiful.
Thank you. Shall I do the next one?
Yeah.
Cool. This was roundabout. I'd only been doing gig photography probably about maybe 4 or 5 months when I took this one. Again, it's about what I love about the local scene is the way I touched earlier on about how you go from band to band to band to band, but it's also the way everything seems to come full circle. This is Pivo, which is a venue that I started.
I started making there years ago. And I think when I was there, who was it? I try to think who it was that took me there. Colin Hunter. Probably Martin McLaughlin, and all these guys, and I'm sure it was in those days when I was starting to connect, and I remember going in, it was downstairs and
it
dark.
was. Yeah,
and
it's
a really hard street. And I think I bumped into you there. I think that's where
Oh,
I
right,
first met
okay,
you.
cool.
Yeah, you've probably been there, because at that stage it's like I was new, didn't really know anyone, and I'm quite shy when I come in, and it's not that I'm being rude, so I do apologise.
No, I am as well. That's where the photography is good, because you don't have to talk to anybody.
Sorry, I'm bluffing.
No, not at all. So this was the venue I first get into gig photography, and I used to go home, tell my son about the bands and what was good about the bands, and he seemed to really quite like it. I said, there's this bassist, they did this, and like the Coffins, Mikey and the Coffins, Mr. Mental Baseman, the shapes he would pull. I would tell my son about it, and then like about 6 months later, we managed to get agreement to open this place on a Sunday morning under a special license.
Right.
So, went there early, we had to cover all the pumps, cover all the optics, all the rest of it, and then we ended up filling the place with about 130 screaming teenagers.
Right.
For Ben's band at that point was Valid and Sundays, and a couple of other support bands, and I still remember that day vividly, the organisation that went into putting the gig on and getting all the licensing stuff all sorted out, and just for a lot of these kids it was their first live gig.
Right.
And just seeing the way they loved it, it made it all worth it, and the band were really good as well. So,
it's a great shot. I like how everybody's all raising their hands with the finger pointed.
And this is like Josh. He's
the main man in the.
He was the main man in Valid and Sundays. He's now an actor for BBC as well. So
okay, how people move forward, but it's amazing how their early beginnings and what they do. But you can see even like it's almost as if the people are silhouettes, shadows. It's really a technical, good, hard shot to take as well, because I know that venue and I know how dark it is. But are you using any other light in there?
No, that was all ambient light. Ambient
light.
I mean, I try not to use flashes in gigs. Occasionally, you can't really help
it. You're not allowed anyway. So there's some venues allow it. I personally don't really see a problem with it, because
as long as it's off camera, I think.
Well, that's it, off camera. Yeah. Not on camera, and if you're allowed to put it somewhere on the stage where you're just going to, especially for drummers.
Yes, definitely.
I was lucky enough last night with Paul Cook. He was well lit, because I think
I saw that photograph. That was awesome.
Yeah, and he's basically main set anyway. So, but thanks for that. He in the garage and stuff like that, and obviously he being the main kind of star. Although the band are brilliant. I mean, I love the new singer. He's absolutely brilliant, and I've actually ordered my 2 T-shirts. I'm just waiting them coming.
You've got to have your franchise, your merchandise.
I'm finding I'm starting, every time I go to a gig now, I'm going to buy their T-shirt, and I'm going to start wearing them, irrespective of whether I like them or not. I'm going to have a collection of T-shirts. I'm still waiting my Dogtooth one. I'm just putting that in there.
Well, it's a good way of supporting, the on-site bands, as the merch.
Yeah, and I keep saying that I'm still waiting my Dogtooth T-shirt. So I just want to make sure that gets out there. I'll be mentioning that in my interview as well. With my Dogtooth T-shirt.
But this is certainly the type of shot I love. I love it when the band interacts with the audience.
That's what I look for as well. There's a lot of photographers go in the pit, and they're focused on the musicians, but you want to capture the whole gig that night. Tell a story. It's a moment in history, and the punters are actually the main things.
And it's hard if you're in a pit, because they're at your back.
Yeah, and last night for me, when I went back into the crowd, I started taking pictures, and for me, that's a live gig. That's what the bands want as well. They want to show that they're actually at that venue and shooting. They want some close-up ones as well, but interacting and as we say, that image tells a story, which I like about it. And you can take a picture of a musician, whatever, and
you've even got an idea of time, because you see the sweat, and you know it's near the end of the set, and
everybody's really pumped up and enjoying themselves. Yeah. It's the rock finger, or is it a rock finger?
2 rock fingers and a clenched fist.
Brilliant, I love it. Yeah, is there anybody that knows, is that venue still going?
It's now Kitty O'Shea's.
Right, okay.
And that's where I was alluding to earlier on about how sometimes these things come full thing, because the sound engineer for that gig ended up being the recording engineer for Megalomatics' first album.
Oh, got you. That's
and
I know that the venue's not far from Glasgow Central.
Yeah, it's just at the bottom of Wellington Street.
Yeah.
So.
And then I know that Admiral Bar that I've shot in a couple of times.
Yeah, I like the Admiral.
It's Mr. Ross's pub. I'll give him a wee name shout there. I photographed Hipsway in there, and I've been in there as a punter having a little drink with Mr. Westwood. We got rather drunk that night, and I remember it was quite funny because we'd been watching a band, and don't ask me who it was, he'll remind me. He grabbed my phone. I says it felt weird that we weren't actually photographing.
All right.
And he grabbed my mobile and started taking pictures.
All right, okay.
We were both pretty drunk, so.
Well, Westy did?
Yeah. So it was quite
I have to remind him of that then.
Yeah, it does. I'm just remembering because we were quite drunk. That's the odd part of going to sort of venue when you're a punter, and you're not. I got that camera with you, but if you're drinking, and something that I don't do. I don't drink and shoot. I don't have my cameras. And
I'm afraid I do, but then I don't, because I'm not getting paid for the shots, and I'm there as an interest rather than commercially. I have that freedom where, and to be honest, I sometimes find my shots get better as the night goes on. Strangely enough, even I know you think they get better,
confidence
but the next day you can actually see they are getting better.
Yeah, I think it would be confidence for me because I'm quite a shy person. A lot of people find that quite strange, but I am. I don't do the selfies with the musicians. However, I would do it, but only if the musician came up and asked me, do you want a picture of me, kind of thing. Although you might think that was a little bit big-headed, but sorry, I'm flat.
No, not at all. But yeah, it's still open. It's called Kitty O'Shea's now, so it's Pivo itself get closed down, refurbished, and then again full circle thing. Then my son became the sound engineer in Kitty O'Shea's for about a year before he moved on to the Clutha, and then he's in between places at the moment. But
that's a good image. Well, that's the second one.
That's the second one.
3 to go, which is exciting.
Megalomatic again. You might see there's a bit of a theme here, you know.
That's fine.
But this was the first tour that I was a driver, roadie, merch salesman, videographer, photographer. This was, I think this was their album tour when no, it couldn't be their album tour. It must have been their EP. Yeah, it was the EP tour a year and a half ago. So got ourselves a wee van from Slitter, Scotland, and basically went down to London, Brighton, Hull, Norwich, Newcastle. So basically 1 week tour. Just that bit of it was the England bit was 1 week. They had about a week in Scotland the week before that. So it was really, really hard work, but it's something I look back on, and it was really enjoyable. You can tell they're living the rock and roll lifestyle with the donuts. And
the food that you should not eat.
Yes.
But that's what it's all about, getting energy levels up. That's what I always say.
But it was quite the tour. I mean, 2 of them had got food poisoning right at the start of the tour. Craig lost his voice and they had to do instrumental for one of the gigs, and it was
the joys of touring.
A lot of things happened in that tour.
I mean, I haven't actually toured with a band as yet, and I think that will happen in time. Obviously, we both work in day jobs as well, and it's hard. It's trying to find that balance, and getting the time off from work is not always easy. And if you're doing this as a full-time basis, then you might be able to do it. Or if you're a student, that's where you find. And as guys, as we're getting a little bit older, certainly it's not as easy to get that gig or that request to go and be a tour photographer.
And it is. I think if you were just doing the photography and getting yourself driven about, that it's still hard work, but it's not stressful, you know. No. The driving bit's the stressful bit, you know, trying to navigate this big van through little narrow Brighton streets and stuff like this. And I think the first day of the first tour almost took the roof off the van when we suddenly realised that the entrance to the car park was lower than the roof of the van. But fortunately we stopped in time. But it's in fact second tour, same van. We had a puncture on the very first day, so it's a megalomaniac thing. It started off with breaking strings, and now it just seems to have worked its way up to mechanical problems.
It's weird. Obviously there's a couple of films out at the moment based on musicians from the 70s and the 80s. One being Elton John, one's coming out, and then you've got Bohemian Rhapsody that's been out, and now they've got the Motley Crue one coming out. Now I've just seen the trailer for the Motley Crue film, and it's absolutely hilarious, and I can't wait to see it. And again, you just never know with this, and if the guys do well and then they go into success, these videos and these images and these stories will hold well for a possible film. Yeah. And you just never know. So that's why it's a creating a moment in history and documenting and having that little story. Because the lads will reflect on that and look back on it if they ever want to do a book and for yourself.
Yes.
You know, if you wanted to create a book for their journey, you know. Again, it's been creative, and that's where I find this is really interesting, is based on this project that I'm doing.
I think that was the closest I came to the sort of photography pressures that you do all the time, because they wanted to upload after the gig. Yeah. Wherever they were, they wanted the photographs uploaded either that night or early the next morning, so that people could see how the tour was going.
Right, so the next shot.
Yeah, this was again another promo shot for Megalomaniac that I think I took before the EP tour, which was the tour the previous photograph was part of. I think, no doubt my son will correct me if I'm wrong. It was taken in the old Arica. It wasn't taken in Arica, it was the old torpedo testing place that they used to test. As a kid, I used to be on there in a wee inflatable on the loch with a wee inflatable thing, and if you heard the siren go off, you had to get off the loch because that meant they were firing a torpedo.
Don't a torpedo hitting you.
Yeah, definitely. Occasionally they come up on the beach, so you had to clear the beaches as well as the loch. But I'd stopped off a couple of weeks before this just to take some test shots, just to let the guys see, you know, would this be a suitable venue for, you get the promo shot. So and they selected it, and as a quick offshoot, one of those just shots that I took just to give them a feel for what the place looked like, I ended up using in a compilation for another photo shoot for Mantis Toboggan. Right. You know, there was a photograph of them holding like a reactive rod with this factory behind them, and that was literally just a photograph I took from that. Yeah. So this was taken towards the end of the photo shoot. There was a number of shots taken throughout the place during the day, but they wanted one shot at night. Unfortunately, just as the midges came out. So you had to be very quick taking this shot because I think they were eating the guys alive almost. So there was one shot followed by a couple of minutes of scratching, followed by another shot. But again, this was just a combination, long exposure to get the lights of Arica behind them, and a couple of off-camera flashes, just to give them the profiling. So dodging the midges, dodging
Scottish midges.
Oh yeah, and all the guys that seem to want to hang about there at night as well. So like taking pictures, mate, and all that sort of stuff.
Do you find that's what makes the image as well? Particularly for me when I'm at venues and I do what you do. I go and research and do some test shots, and that's where I use my mobile phone because I don't always go in with my big camera, but historically, for some odd reason, bands like that kind of graffiti and that old
like grunge
stuff. And I know Stuart Westwood, when he was photographing Dogtooth, recently he was in an alleyway and there was something going on with a couple of drug users, and there was fights and there was syringes and whatever going on. But again, it adds to a little bit of drama and a little bit of story behind that.
Well, even if you
shot.
can't see it in the shot, because there's a little bit of danger, even just a little bit of danger,
like it,
you can see it in the eye. You can see that it reflects in the face. I think sometimes.
And again, from the band and their genre of music and what they want to create as an image, having that story and that, as you know, what's going on, just adds a little bit more,
bit more grit.
Grit, yeah, that's the word I'm getting out. It's just sometimes my brain doesn't think about my mouth, and my mouth doesn't think about my brain, and to get my words out.
But yeah, so we took a few shots round there, and like I said, the test shot I took wasn't a mobile phone, so it's amazing that a mobile phone shot ended up actually in a full-size photo shoot for a different band. But
no, it's a good shot. I like, again, the work of flash and shadow, just having the silhouettes of each member at the back there. I mean, there's three of them. I mean, I'm looking from a
there's three of them, because in the last shot there was four because they had a roadie with them,
right?
As well. So
it's
this
just that little shot, but you've only got two shadows in there. But was there any reason for that, or for the third shadow, just for the third one?
I think
just that you get, from what I'm looking at the image, there's just.
I think because the way the flashes were positioned, I think if you look at my son there, he's equally lit on either side. So I think in this particular case, it almost like the shadows almost cancelled out. But yeah, you've got basically Jamie's shadow, you've got Craig's shadow.
It gives you an idea of another two members of band members. I don't know. That's the way I'm looking at it. Was that?
No, that wasn't a conscious decision, but yeah, that's.
You see
I'll take that.
Yeah, and that gives that little. It's like a ghosting effect. I did that with the underdog theory way at the back, way at the beginning when underdog theory were starting. With my first images, and they had done a bit where it's ghosting, and I had them all lining up, but I'd done a lot of Photoshop.
Right.
So I photographed them again. And I put them underneath it as if it was their souls coming out.
Oh yes.
So I'll put that image up, and people can see it. But
I love shots like that.
But again, that's creativity. I mean, you've took that shot. Was there any other editing involved in that?
Little bit of sharpening. I mean, when it's full size, I deliberately over sharpened the eyes a bit.
Right.
So just to try and make it feel as if the eyes are actually coming out the photograph at you.
Right.
And again, at this sort of size, it's difficult to tell, but the sharpening as well helps on the cracks in the glass.
I mean, that's the thing as well. You don't even see the flash bouncing on the glass, and that from a technical aspect as well is really, really hard to achieve.
Yeah, just had to angle it right, and then softbox on it as well. So
that's a really cracking shot, mate.
Oh, thank you.
Beautiful. It's as I say, I like the grunge and all the industrial type of look and images. The thing as well was with band shoots, it's to think it a little bit different, because they do all stand as if they're like almost statues, like waxworks, and they're all moving, and they've got their hands in the pockets, the serious face. I tend to also have a little bit of fun with my promo shoots with bands, and I get them to jump around and be a bit daft, just to get them relaxed and loosened up. And sometimes they're the better shots as well, and they don't realise it because they've got a vision and they've got a thing in their head thinking, I'm going to look serious here, and I'm going to look like my music is serious. But not all music is serious, and sometimes it's good to show their personality and
definitely
a little bit of fun about the band, a little interest. But I mean, it's again going back from the 80s and the 70s, and the shoots there and reflecting on images from back in the day when it was hard, when it was film. Whereas we're quite lucky in the sense we use digital and we can.
I think yeah. I mean, virtually every band photo shoot I've ever done, they want to stand in the line, but quite often they let the environment do the talking for them. Right, it's almost like they're standing back and letting the environment shape their image.
I do listen to bands and what their ideas are, but then if they've came to me to take a picture, I will give my creativity and I'll give them my ideas and what I think. And then I'll say, right, we'll do what you want to do, and we'll also try mine, and then we'll come together and. Then
they can judge.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the only band that really wanted to do something different I did was Mantis Toboggan, and Crispy was the lead singer of FYM before that, and they wanted a photo shoot that had a storyline. They had a storyline in mind, so I think there was about 6 photographs in total in this sequence, and then they released them one at a time over time with a storyline.
All right.
You know, and they'd seen the sort of photography I'd done, the surreal stuff, and they wanted to try and build that in.
Yeah. And another thing is instruments in shots as well. I've done music videos, and you've probably done the videos yourself, but you do music videos of bands, and I've watched one recently where a girl's in the middle of a field using an electric guitar with no lead in it, and I'm thinking, right, okay.
A battery-powered guitar?
Yeah, it's battery-powered guitar. Yeah. And I'm thinking, yeah, it looks fine, and the video idea and the concept and the planning and the storyboarding must have been interesting for that. But I'm not knocking anyone, but I just think a lot of times when you've got instruments, it's using that instrument. You get a lot of them in the point of the camera, they're standing with it. Sometimes they feel comfortable because they're holding something that they use on stage, and that's their. It's the same as us with cameras. We feel comfortable when we're holding our camera. And
but only in certain ways.
Yeah, and doing this, it's a little out of your comfort zone. But as you get into it, and you relax more, and you think, hey, this is quite good. It's fun. But I love that shot, and that's the bit that I enjoy the most as well. I love that kind of stuff. While I love doing the live stuff, for me is this kind of stuff that you're doing as well, and it's fun. It's being creative. It's getting closer to the bands. It's getting them to get to know you, and you're creating something of almost an artwork, you know.
But I think it is hard, especially like you say, if you're shy and stuff like this. It's and I am. It's I find doing a photo shoot for a band is a very, very personal thing. It's very personal for the band, and it's very personal for the photographer. And I think that's why I do very few of them. I only tend to sort of do photo shoots for bands that I know well, and I know the people well, because it is quite a personal thing.
Well, that's it. I mean, I've shot like famous bands promo shoots, and they're like me and you when you first meet them. But when you first meet them, from my point of view, I certainly was shy. When I shot The Real Thing and I did their recent publicity shots, I don't know if I can remember much about it, if I knew the settings, and I'm pointing the camera and they're doing their thing. And to be honest with you, they're just like the guys that were standing and jumping around, and I've got a shot of The Real Thing, and I'll put it up, where they're actually leaning from a gate or a fence, and then up at a stage door. And I'm now friendly with Chris Amu and Dave Smith, and they now use one of my images in a big banner, and it just steps on from there, and then your confidence grows. But not everybody's wanting to go as far as that, and if you're happy and just doing what you do, and you're getting what you want from it, then
I think that's important. I mean, photography is like any other interest. It's you do it for lots of personal reasons: enjoyment, relaxation, commercial. But you know, never lose sight of the reasons you're actually doing it. Because once you start taking it to a level where you don't get that anymore, then you have to ask yourself why you're doing it. So you know, which is why I love the surreal stuff, and you know. And the music stuff, because the things I'm interested in. Yeah, I do a lot of landscape stuff, but the landscape stuff's actually more because it gives me an excuse to go for a nice walk.
Definitely. You know, I can understand that. I'm not good at landscape, but I should really try it. Obviously black and white as well.
Reflected in the water, so black and white kind of kills all that down, but I think that's really what was needed for this shot, you know, because it could almost be a distraction, you know. The colours basically, it draws the eye all over, whereas really what you want is the concentration on the band. Maybe the grunginess of the what's immediately behind them. Maybe don't want to look too deep for a shot.
So was that a personal choice from the band that wanted black and white, or did you just give them both? And
I gave them both and said, right, choose, and they chose the black and white version.
Well, black and white works, and sometimes it doesn't. Because it's like when I'm editing my images and I'll look at something and I'll go, I'll try. I will do both, and I'll think, that goes well in black and white. But for me, I'm always colour. I don't know what it is. I want to see what the eye sees, and we don't all see in black and white, but as Stuart Westwood mentioned, he's colourblind, so for him it's a little bit harder, and he doesn't know whether his reds are greens or reds are greens. And he has a personal view on black and white, but I'll leave that to Westy. I'll not mention what it is, but I love black and white as well, and you get photographers who are specifically on black and white, as we talked earlier.
It's hard to avoid black and white if you're photographing in local venues.
Yeah, with the blue and red lights.
That sometimes the only way you can dig a photograph out is to drop it to black and white, so at least you're getting the contrast.
Definitely.
You're not getting the colour, unfortunately, but you will get the contrast.
Okay, this last photograph, this is what I feel is my favourite music photograph of any I've taken, and it happened to be the first as well. This is the one where I took it in Pivo. It was a band called Splintered Halo. Bobster Smith was the guitarist here. Awesome guitarist, and he knew how to play to the camera. As soon as the camera came out, he was in there striking the poses. The reason I think this is my favourite one, and the one I view as the first, is I put it on Facebook and he responded really, really well to it. And at that point I thought, actually it's possible for people to like the gig photographs I take of them. This, to me, I view this as the turning point where I went from just snapping, pointing and shooting, taking pictures randomly of bands, to actually specifically going to gigs to take the photographs. I view this as the gig that it happened. Taken in Pivo, what I love about it is the side lighting from the spotlight. In those days they used to have a smoke machine before it used to start setting off the fire alarms. And they had these lovely little spots, so you got some really, really nice
It's got nice leading lines there. I don't know if that was something that you picked up on. It's something that I do. I look for lines when I'm shooting. Obviously, you've got the top orange light at the top, and then you've got the smoke and the light just behind his head. I
mean, if I was to edit it again, I'd probably crop it in a bit tighter on the left and a bit tight just above the spot above. So I would crop it a bit more tightly, but yeah, no, I think. At the time, I didn't know about rule of thirds and leading lines and all that sort of stuff. But looking on it now, I do love the lines in it. Even the bane of the photographer is a microphone stand, but even that I think kind of works with it because it's.
The thing is with guitars, it's another thing that was Stuart Westwood that mentioned to me. I never thought about it myself. But when we're taking pictures, there's a lot of not just the artist itself, but they may all be sponsored by that particular brand of guitar.
Yes.
So if you're like Fender, Gibson,
Ibanez in this case, I think,
or any type of make or any brand, if you get that in there and then you tag that company.
Oh, right, okay.
Okay, it's another thing to think about.
Yeah.
It's where you then get. It's all about networking and marketing yourself, and then having that little. Branding, and people may connect you, and then before you know it, that company might want to use that image for publicity.
That's a great idea. A wee side fact to this is when Bobster eventually retired from the band, he gave me his mask.
Right, got it.
So, and that was then the mask I used in a lot of my surreal shots. I had a series of shots called the Intruder series.
Right.
There's about 5 or 6 of them, and in every shot I'm wearing that mask.
Put them up, put those images up, let people see them.
Okay, thanks.
Because it's interesting using props and masks in any type of photography. I love it. It's just getting the willing participant to do it.
Yeah.
And they don't realise that they're actually get their face behind the mask. So if they don't really want their face in the picture, then at least the mask there. But it's not unlike the band Ghost.
Yes.
And he wears the mask. Well, I don't know if they keep changing the lead singer. I don't know why they do
that.
Ghost
the band, yes.
Yeah. And the current one is just basically white makeup. But they have used masks in the past, or some of the other members. I know there was a shot that Matthias interviewed I should have done my research on this one, the photographer, and I do apologise. She photographed she is a she, and that's who I know. I will put the text below who it is. She photographed Ghost, and she talks about in his interview series. I'll put the link down there as well for anyone that wants to listen to the interview that Matthias has done in his podcast. And she talks about photographing Ghost, and the members in the background on that promo shoot is actually just punters, just anyone. So they put them in the mask, and they didn't know it wasn't the band members. The only person was the band member, was the front person, was the Ghost singer, and she's the photographer, Ghost. She's the main photographer for them, and that's where it's quite handy to use things like that.
Definitely.
If you can't get the members to turn up, like I had that with Seaside Sons, and I'm going to give them a little punt because I work with them quite a bit. Pav, the guitarist, I don't know if you know Seaside Sons.
I don't know.
I did their music video, Hey Little Lady, a number of other songs was done that we did. And there was an occasion where that Jason wanted a video done for his daughter on a song that he wrote, and we couldn't get Pav to come down to the beach. So it was really kind of an acoustic based type song anyway. It was quite a kind of a nice song, and the music video was based on like him having fun with his daughter, and he talks about his daughter, and so we did it as if I was like his other half videoing them having that time. So it's like a camcorder, and it based
home video.
Yeah, so it bounces back to them just singing it, and it's just quite a basic video done in Green Beach, but Pav couldn't make it. But so I had done a video before that as well with green screen, and so Jason thought, oh, we could use green screen. What we'll do is I'll get Pav into green screen, and or whatever, I'll video him. But it didn't work. Yeah, so he's not in that video, which is a shame. But it's where you could use masks. Certainly not in that video that I did. But the other thing, looking at that image, and we'll get back into discussing the image there, Ronnie, the smoke at bands and gigs, I don't know how you suffer greatly with
depends
smoke
how much
and light.
of it there is.
Yeah.
I love it if it's just the right amount.
Is there any technical aspects or ideas that you would use in your camera settings that you would use to bypass that you could maybe share with someone?
I like to try and point in a direction where you've got quite a directional light, you know, because that then is when you get like your beams of light through. It's not like a blanket where it's you know, it's just like a backdrop almost. If you can get it in a certain direction where you get like a wee beam of light, you can see a spot. Try and get it at the start or at the end when they've just injected the smoke, because then like here you get texture, you get the context. Maybe underexpose a bit as well, so that there's less of an effect coming off the smoke, and you are actually more likely to see the dark bits in there. Because
it's interesting me asking that and how you're delivering that advice, because I think a lot of photographers just spray and pray. They just basically have it, and they're just in the moment, just take pictures and hoping that one's going to be exposed properly. The smoke's not going to be too.
The trouble is the smoke's always there, so if you don't vary your exposure, they're all going to be blown out.
Basically, that's the first thing. That's when I take a step back and I watch it and I will look for it. Either that, if I think it's just going to be unrealistic to get a picture, I'll not shoot. I'll move on and I'll move to another area.
I mean, if you do get a blanket and it's it's really there's nothing coming through in the way of directional light. The other thing to do maybe is just to go for the beam, the shadows in the smoke is I quite like to go for, because if it is more of a blanket thing, just try and get an angle where the light is actually extending a shadow beat of the singer or the guitarist through the smoke, and that becomes the thing. But yeah, once it fills the place, then you're pretty limited what you can do. But yeah, underexposed a little bit, try and get like the bright bits, so there's bits of him outside of the smoke that are very underexposed, but that does at least allow you to get the texture.
Yeah.
Bit of clarity as well, maybe in Photoshop or Lightroom, just the clarity will bring some of the texture of the smoke through as well. It's
quite a difficult shot to get and capture. what camera did you use in that one?
That was my D3100.
Right,
so it was a crop sensor, you know, very noisy. Yeah,
what was the lens?
I think actually that was my 50mm. So I was down at 1.8, which is why, you know, he's in a line with the stand there, so that's all in focus, but you know, drops off really, really fast. You know, if you look at the light, it's so out of focus. I think
it's fine that you get depth of field and you've got. I don't mind a little bit of blurriness in images. One of my images that I've selected from my 5 is actually blurred, but it's movement.
Yeah.
And it still looks fine. In fact, it was the Stereo MCs and they used it as a promotional image. And basically you can, it doesn't always have to be tack sharp in my mind as well, and sometimes it's hard to get that depth of field.
Especially if you're sitting there at 1.8.
Well, this is the thing, yeah. And if you pump it up and your f-stop's up higher, and because you're wanting that sharpness or whatever, and it's going to be.
The thing is, if you get that shot and it's blurred, but there's a lot of movement in it, you've now gone from an editorial type shot to a conceptual type shot.
Correct. Yeah.
You know, and they both got something going for them.
Yeah, definitely. Totally agree.
So I don't have this mask anymore.
All right.
There was a Halloween gig that Splinter Tailo did, and they brought Spobster back to do one of his guitar solos for one of their songs. So I gave him his mask back for that, and then I think he's giving it to his kid now.
All right.
I gave it back to him a lot less clean than he gave it to me, because it had been in forests and up hills and used in all sorts of different situations. So it was a little bit grubby, but yeah.
That's good. That's good.
So that mask has a history.
Yeah, well, that's great. And that musician, did you say he retired now?
He retired he left the band. I think he's now playing for a wedding band actually.
Right.
Now.
Okay.
I could get it wrong. I think they're called Wireless, but I could be wrong. And
okay.
No doubt he'll tell me if that's the case. But
no doubt he will. Okay, that'll be your 5 then.
That's my 5. I'm really hard choosing them.
Well, that was the idea behind it. Obviously, we're showing a number of other images that I've asked you to provide to me, and then we'll go through your websites, etc.
Thank you.
As we're doing this interview, guys will be able to see that and see a lot of the work that you do. Other music photography that you do, what other fields of photography are you doing?
Other types? Well, like I said, there's the landscape stuff. I mean, I spend a lot of our time in Argyll, and I just love walking and mountain biking, kayaking. So always have a camera with me, you know, when I'm doing that sort of stuff. And it's just, that's the stuff that really does well in the Getty as well. I mean, virtually all my sales are landscape type shots. But yeah, I do love my conceptual stuff. So but that's hard, because the idea, you have to just wait for the idea to come to you. I have a wee notebook where I write down ideas, and sometimes things are in there for a year before I do anything about them.
Yeah. But, I mean, there was a number of questions that I put in there, and obviously we're not going to go through them all. I did with Karen, which is really unfair. But she was the very first interview that I'd done. And I'm just going to select a couple of questions out of there. Feel free to refer to your notes.
Okay.
How critical are you at your work?
I think it depends on the shot. The conceptual stuff I'm really critical on. I'll work on them and I'll go away and I'll come back and have another look at them and fine tune them, and because effectively it's one image, all the work's gone into one image, so I'm more critical about those. Gig shots, maybe not so much, because for 2 reasons. One, there's more of them. Usually I try and keep it down to 15 to 20 for an album, a Facebook album. And the second is, whatever I like is not always going to be what the band likes. You know, often for profile shots or cover, band cover shots, they'll pick something I wouldn't I wouldn't have picked, and I would have been quite critical of. So I've learned not to be too critical of these.
Yeah.
Because I'd be judging them against criteria that would be completely different to the criteria a band would use for choosing them. So, but I'd always try and learn from them, to be honest. Occasionally I put them up in Flickr and put them in groups to try and get some constructive feedback.
Yeah, I mean,
Flickr's a great
you touched
platform
about,
for that.
yeah, you touched about how like some likes of this guy, your very last image, you talked about how much he was drawn to the work that the quality of the work that you were providing.
Yeah.
But I think as photographers or any artist or creative persons, we're all very critical.
Yeah.
I think musicians are the same.
Yeah.
And anyone that's work-based. With that, we go on to the next one of the other questions that I've picked out. What advice would you give to any aspiring photographers if they wanted to get into photography or music photography?
Any photography in general, just do lots of reading. Go into, if you have a particular interest, if you go into platforms like Flickr, they've got loads and loads of special interest groups. Go into these groups, look at the works of other people, look at what do you like about other people's shots, what appeals to you. Get an idea of what you want to try and achieve, what sort of stuff interests you, and then that narrows the field about the research you can do. What techniques do they use? You know, how do you come about making a shot like that? Like some of the conceptual stuff that I do is painting with light. So what techniques do you use to paint with light? How many shots does it take? What's your exposure times like? How do you do it by yourself? You know, just lots of reading. Go to people that have done it before. Try and learn from them. And that even same with music photography, but except beyond that, you've obviously need to get in with the bands and you need to get in to the venues. So you know, go there. Talk to other photographers, look at their work, you know, get advice from them. I mean, I took a lot of advice from Stuart Westwood in the early days, you know, what exposures did he use, where did he stand, you know, did he use...
He's the main man at the moment, isn't he? And I'm not just saying that because he's a really good friend of mine. I see him as one of my best friends at the moment. But he, for me, way at the beginning, as we pointed out in the interview, I clicked onto his work ethic, his resilience. He's just consistent. He's the most busiest and more technical. And when you work with him, but Stuart is, he doesn't hide anything, and he's helpful.
Yes.
There is a lot of photographers out there, quite rightly so, and I'm not knocking them for it. And it's a business to them. It's a livelihood.
Yeah.
Might not so much be supportive in giving you some advice. Some people might not like what I'm doing at this moment in time.
I can understand that. I mean, that's your business.
But the whole point of Music Behind the Lens was based on my feeling was we weren't getting enough like publicity ourselves, and in order for us to gain that business. It's a self-promotion, it's a promotion for you.
Yes.
It's an advertising portal, and to give the general public an awareness of what music photographers do. And I think the business itself, with digital media and so many people having cameras and mobile phones, has damaged it to a point.
Oh, definitely.
And you've always had hobbyists, you've always had people interested in amateur photography like yourself, and you do it in a professional level when it's required, and you get paid for that, compensated well, or what you think would be a suitable fee, as I do. We both get day jobs, but as again, there is people who do it for a living.
Yeah.
And I have met a few people who have been really helpful as well.
Yeah.
So with that, going into that, is there any photographers out there that you would suggest to me, either for me to get in contact with to interview, or anyone that you admire? You've mentioned Andy Mills. Who was it?
It's Gary Cooper. He does a lot of the Edinburgh venues. Bannerman's, Banshee Labyrinth, all that sort of stuff. So, so Gary turns out a lot of good stuff. So Alan Gray of AKG Photo. So I think he is a commercial photographer, but he does a lot, you know, I've seen him at quite a few gigs. I think he works with HD Music quite a lot.
Okay,
as
well,
their photographer.
I'll check them out.
So.
Thank you, Ronnie, for attending and being part of this.
No, thanks very much for the invite.
It's so far. I'm trying to think how many that I've done. I think
I've seen 3.
3, so you're the 4th, and so far it's getting some good feedback. It's going well. How's it made you feel?
Yeah, it's uncomfortable. Like you say, not used to being on this side, but it was. I loved having to be made to think about how I got to, you know, why I did what I did and how I got to be here.
Yeah.
I got a lot of really nice memories out of it, to be honest. It was, you know, and one of the reasons I do photography is I have a screensaver of my favourite photographs, not the technically the best ones, but the ones that bring back the nicest memories.
Yeah.
So, you know, that to me, that's what photography is about, and this made me revisit a lot of that. Looking through the images again was nice.
I'm sure you're going to take this away from this today, is understanding how that person feels being photographed and videoed.
Yeah.
So it's making you think now when you go and do that next shoot, you've been there.
Definitely.
And you now know how it feels.
Awkward.
It does, yeah.
But hopefully rewarding, but with the end result. So.
And no one likes to look at themselves or hear themselves or, oh, I wish I said that, or I sound terrible there, or wait a minute, my shirt's moving, or I should have shaved, or I should have brushed my hair, but it's real. And again, photography's like that. You want to capture the moment. I mean, is there any specific musicians that you would love to shoot, like famous ones, or is it just, you're not too bothered? Is it just about the image?
Yeah, it's about the environment, you know. I think I just don't get the same. But I've only shot one arena shot, and that was standing in for Westy at Primal Scream.
Right. Okay.
And while it was an experience, I do much prefer the tightness and the coziness of local venues. I mean, obviously, you know, I'm an 80s man myself. You know, I love my Ultravox, my Gary Newman. So you know, photographing guys like that would be really interesting.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm all really about, you know, the small venues, the music, the closeness, the tightness, the fact that there's no pressure, there's no pit, there's no 3-song limit. You know, so you're a punter and a photographer. I like that. You know, the minute you're just a photographer,
that's where you find smaller venues. And I think my advice would be given to any of you inspiring photographers out there is get yourself out to the smaller gigs and photograph these young bands coming up through as well, because these guys will be famous
and they're helping you.
Yeah, and they will be famous one day.
Yeah.
And you've took those images at the start, you know. So
because you photograph the young bands and they share it with their mates that are in bands, and then they want you to share to photograph them, and you work up, and before you know it, your name's out there.
So where could people find your work if people want to look at your work online or any other
online mainly? I mean, my working title is Click and Pray. Click and Pray Photography. So on Facebook or Flickr. Or I've got a website as well in Zenfolio.
Okay,
but generally, if you just search for Click and Pray or Click and Pray Photography,
I'll add them to the comment fields of the video. Well, we're coming near to the end. Again, thank you very much. It's been interesting. We've had a couple of people walking in one interview again, which is always interesting. The sign is on the door that I shall use again. We've had battery problems.
But no, thank you for doing these series. I mean, it's been really interesting. I really enjoyed the first 3 that you did. I obviously...
I'm going to enjoy this one even more.
But I already knew the 3 photographers anyway, or seen them at gigs, and you know, some of them probably less so, but you know...
Yeah, we've got coming up, Raymond Thompson, Shona Cutt, Bazza Mills and Fishbones Glover. Now Fishbones is obviously retired now, but he's a character. He's well known for the UK subs photography,
right?
And just to the punk era, and so I'm looking forward to it. I do enjoy this, and I'm getting more interaction with other photographers, and that's what it's all about as well, and becoming a network and a community and looking after each other. And that's where I'm basing myself on. It's just helping each other and being friendly.
No, it's good because I've seen how much work putting this together.
It's a lot. It's not just pointing the camera at you.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of work, so it's greatly appreciated.
Okay, well, thanks very much.
Well, thank you.
all the best. Hope to see you in the pit, and we'll meet up again. If you need any help with any promotional shots, give me a shout, and I'll give you a shout. Not a problem. Thanks again, Ronnie.
Okay, well, thank you.
Cheers,
man.
Bye bye.